Hey guys, I want to welcome you into our cardio workshop where we're going to talk about how to get and keep your heart healthy. Now first I want to start with a topic that really everyone is aware of. 2020 was tough. It was a year of fear, doubt, quarantine, and self-isolation. Everything changed. And unfortunately, it led to a lot of declining factors in a lot of our other areas of our health. We find that 65% of Americans actually took time off from not only their regular workout routines, but also their healthy eating habits during this time, as well as other mental and social issues that we ended up having from all that time alone. And it really did show in our effects in our health. And during that time, while we were busy worrying about the virus, heart disease ended up creeping up as the #1 killer. The American Heart Association has gone on to say that if nothing changes over the next 10 years, 40.5% of Americans will have some form of heart disease. Now that is 2 out of every 5 people watching this right now. On top of that, they estimate that healthcare costs associated with heart disease can go up as much as 3 times the current number, up to $818 billion. So we got to do something. The good news is your heart is an amazing organ. It is capable of pumping around 2,000 gallons of blood every single day with 115,000 beats every single day, all without you having to do a thing. Its sole purpose is to get blood and nutrients to your body so your organs can function, your cells can heal, and remove waste products for you. And again, it does this all without you ever having to think about it. This is because our body is imbued with an innate intelligence given to us by God, where all of our cells, all of our organs, all of our nerves know what to do. Their job is to keep you healthy without you having to do anything about it. And that's an amazing gift. The problem is sometimes we do things to get in the way of that. And that's where we lead to heart disease being such a big killer. So when we're trying to heal the heart, to reverse damage that's been done, there are 4 steps. Number 1, we have to identify the cause. Number 2, remove the interference. Number 3, move strategically. And number 4, balance the nervous system. Let's start with what causes heart disease. For the longest time, we have known that the 2 most common things that lead to the heart being a problem are not moving enough and eating junk. That's the basics. No doctor's going to dispute that. We all know this. But there are a lot of other scientific principles that get thrown out there associated with heart disease that have some truth to them, but also some misnomers. So let's start with those. Number 1 being cholesterol. It's fairly commonly thought that high cholesterol is a bad thing and leads to heart disease. And this is not entirely false, but it's also not entirely true either. So when we break it down, there are 2 types of cholesterol we're really talking about. Your first type, your HDL, or high-density lipoproteins, are considered the good cholesterol. This is the cholesterol your body needs. It's essential. It helps us to produce hormones, bile acids, vitamin D. It helps to protect our cells from damage during rapid inflammatory responses, anytime we're injured or under a lot of stress. It even helps to clear out the bad cholesterol that we're going to talk about. So we need this cholesterol. We need it in high doses. The bad cholesterol, or known as LDL or low-density lipoproteins, that is the stuff that we actually don't want a high level of. And so when we talk about cholesterol as bad or having high cholesterol being a bad thing, it's really the high LDL that we're really talking about. The truth about cholesterol is that it's not cholesterol itself that causes heart disease. It's the oxidation or the breakdown of the bad cholesterol when in high amounts in our blood. 2 other facts that might surprise you. More people have a heart attack with normal cholesterol levels than elevated, and there's a higher risk of death with lower levels than high. So it's not as simple as you have high cholesterol, we must lower it. We have to look at the specifics. There have been tons of studies that show the benefits of having a high HDL, regardless of the overall level of cholesterol. So when we look at what we need to do we really want to just lower cholesterol? No, what we want to do is lower the LDL cholesterol. We do that by first looking at how we get a high LDL. Well, that comes from predominantly lifestyle choices. You eat junk food like burgers and chips and candies. Another risk factor is being pre-diagnosed with diabetes, being overweight. Unfortunately for us men, we are at a higher risk just genetically, being men, to produce this, which means we have to work that much harder. And there's a ton of underlying conditions such as kidney disease, liver disease, and even high levels of stress have been shown to cause your body to produce LDL at higher rates and hold on to them. So we need to break down these individual pieces in our own lives and figure out where we need to make changes. The traditional medical answer to all this is, well, high cholesterol bad, let's lower it down. That's where statin drugs come into play. Statins only job is to take cholesterol and lower it indiscriminately. HDL, LDL, doesn't matter. We're just going to lower cholesterol. And time again, studies have shown that that is not actually effective. And there are a ton of other negative health effects that come along with it because we have a lack of HDL now. Remember, HDL is needed to produce hormones, to produce bile acid, to do all these other healthful things for us. So when we lower everything, we ultimately suffer. So it's not really the route to go. Rather, we'd like to support cholesterol formation in a healthy way by supplementing or getting things in our diet with plant sterols and stanols. These are just found in fruits and vegetables. Curcumin and turmeric for anti-inflammatory capacities. Red yeast rice and CoQ10. CoQ10, without getting too far into it, is a very important molecule and nutrient for our heart. And when we are on statins particularly, we lose a lot of that production of CoQ10. So, for any of our patients who are watching this right now, or anyone who is either trying to come off a statin drug or is currently on one, you absolutely have to be supplementing with CoQ10, vitamin D3, and probiotics. The two on your slide here are the two we recommend the most. If you have any questions about any others, let us know. We're happy to answer any questions, but you absolutely have to be on these if you have been exposed to a statin or are currently on one. Otherwise, your CoQ10 production is not there and your heart is ultimately going to suffer. So the next thing that commonly comes up when we talk about heart disease is plaque and atherosclerosis. That's essentially a hardening of the arteries due to extra stress on them when plaque formation takes up space for the blood to go through the vessels. Now, we already know that LDL cholesterol is a part of plaque formation. We know that that is one of the things that gets stuck. HDL's job is to clear that out. But there's another scapegoat that is commonly thrown into this, and that is fat as a whole. And this is another one of those part true, part false. In general, fats are actually good for us. 60% of your diet should come from healthy fats because we need those to create various steroid hormones and the like that our bodies need to survive and to thrive and produce. It's the unhealthy fats, again, going back to your processed foods, your burgers, your red meats, deli meats, anything that man has essentially processed and denatured is going to be more likely to contain those unhealthy fats. So when we talk about fat leading to plaque formation, it's the bad side of things, not necessarily fat in general. We need healthy fats from things like wild-caught fish, good clean oils like coconut oil, seeds, nuts, berries, avocados. These are healthy fats that actually support heart health, not lead to plaque formation. The third and final thing that gets thrown around a lot of times with heart disease is blood pressure, specifically high blood pressure. And high blood pressure is one of the biggest warning signs for potential cardiovascular disease or risk down the line. The problem with it is that it's typically silent. Most people have no idea that they have high blood pressure until their doctor says, hey, your blood pressure's high, you should monitor that. But they never really give you any cues as to what you should do or what that really means for you. It just means, hey, you're probably gonna be on some pills later. There are some signs that you can look out for other than just checking your blood pressure regularly. Things like blood spot in the eyes, throbbing in the chest, head, behind the ears, regular fatigue, nausea, dizziness, among other things. But really, it just makes more sense to check your blood pressure regularly to make sure that you are heading off and staying away from a potential cardiovascular risk down the line. Now, when we talk about measuring blood pressure, there are two numbers that we typically look at. Number one, systolic. That's typically the top number on your reading. Number two, diastolic, the bottom number. The difference is that the systolic number is going to be the amount of pressure the blood puts on the arteries while the heart beats, or the maximum amount of pressure. The diastolic is the amount of pressure the blood puts on the arteries when the heart is at rest in between beats, or your minimum pressure. So a typical healthy range would be 120/80. That's considered normal for most people and healthy. When we start looking at various risk factors for hypertension, another word for high blood pressure, stage 1 is a systolic between 130 and 139, and a diastolic between 80 and 89. Either one of those numbers being in those range is considered stage 1, and you're at an elevated risk for cardiovascular disease down the line. Stage 2 is when you go 140 or higher for systolic, or over 90 for diastolic. Again, either or, it does not have to be both. That is a much higher elevated risk, and serious intervention from a diet and lifestyle standpoint is necessary. Then finally, we have stage 3, which is considered a hypertensive crisis. This is a serious medical situation, an emergency. Things have gotten so far off track that you need to be very careful. And this is anything over 180 for systolic or 120 for diastolic. We've identified the causes. We know where heart disease comes from, what leads to it. Now we have to start removing the interference and getting rid of the things that cause it. We've already alluded to this a little bit with the causes. Really, if you want to remove the interference, you remove the cause, remove the stimulus so your body can be healthier. That starts by eating heart-healthy fats. That is primarily omega-3 fatty acids. The biggest source of this is fish, particularly wild-caught salmon. But you can get this in different quantities from seeds, nuts. There's even a little bit of it in certain brands of avocado. We don't want supplements to be your primary source for any of these things. We'd rather you take in most of your nutrients, heart health and otherwise, through raw, natural foods. Your body is designed to process these nutrients in their natural organic state. The more processed a food is, the less nutritionally dense it is, the less your body absorbs it. And even as good of supplements that are out there, they're still not in their natural state. So always try to get the bulk of your food and your nutrients through those raw, natural sources. We like to say 75% of your food should be on the vine. Do the best you can to stay in that realm. No one's going to be perfect, but the closer to that you are, the more you're going to get out of that food. Now, to fill in the gaps, that's where supplements come in as a nutritional insurance. It's a backup plan. It's to make sure that you're filling in whatever little gaps you may not be able to cover, because we're not chemists, at least not most of us. We're not out there measuring every little bit. It's impossible to do on a daily basis without spending all your time doing it. So taking regular nutritional supplements can be helpful as an insurance policy, but should not be the crutch to make up for bad choices elsewhere. For the heart in particular, we're looking at omega-3, CoQ10, and vitamin D as a supportive and preventative measure for heart health. And for any of our patients who are struggling with any form of heart disease currently, we recommend Cardio Plus. It's an all-encompassing supplement that is very, very effective in helping to reverse some of this damage that's already happened. So if you have any heart issues, please ask our staff about that. They'll be able to point you in the right direction. The third point, move strategically. This is very, very simple, y'all. There's nothing fancy here. It's time to get out of your seats and move around. That simple. But we want to do so in a way that is sustainable and that you enjoy, because that is important. If you don't enjoy it, you're less likely to keep doing it, and we need to do it regularly. Now, a lot of times people get confused and don't know where to start, what the best type of exercise is. And quite frankly, there's a lot that goes into what the best type of exercise may be given what you need. But in purely talking about heart health, it really doesn't matter. If you do standard cardio, which is going to be lower intensity over longer periods, so think a long walk, a bike ride, going for a light jog, those work just as well to promote your heart as doing things like high intensity interval training. So you're thinking P90X, F45, Burn Boot Camp, Orange Theory, those really intense workouts that may not last as long, but get a lot of energy out quickly. Each of these have different health benefits elsewise, and our exercise workshops go into a great deal about those, so I encourage you to look at those. But as far as your health, just getting out and doing something regularly goes a long way. So please, please do that. If you want help, you want advice, we are always here to help. And finally, the last step to healing your heart, we need to balance the nervous system. Chiropractors have known for a long time that the nervous system controls everything you do. It is your most important system, more important than your heart, more important than your immune system, because all those things cannot function without a functioning nervous system. And the medical community is finally starting to catch up. So Dr. Thomas Cowan, MD, has recently come out through his studies and said that most heart attacks are likely caused by an imbalance in your central nervous system and your autonomic nervous system, which controls the function of our internal organs. So going back on that, most heart attacks are caused by an imbalance in your central nervous system, that's your brain and your spinal cord, or your autonomic nervous system, which is the unconscious, the innate nervous system, because they control the function of our organs. So when you have a functioning nervous system, your heart is able to function as well. When you have a functioning nervous system, all the exercise you do, all the good foods you eat are able to actually have a long-term benefit. What good is doing all that if your body can't assimilate those nutrients, if your body can't metabolize what it needs to in order to get the blood pumping? It doesn't do you much good at all. So we need everything working together, and it starts from within. Now, nervous system balance is incredibly important. Remember, everything is controlled by the nervous system: heart, lungs, for your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, for a cut to heal, for you to understand anything I'm telling you right now. A signal has to come down from the brain, through the spinal cord, out to those nerves to tell you what's going on. And then that information has to come back so you can assimilate it and process it. There is no exception to that rule. And so when our nervous system is out of balance, so looking big picture, that means if our spine is not straight from the front, if we don't have 3 proper curves from the side, that's where dysfunction and decreased health ultimately starts. Now, you all who are patients watching this know this already, but subluxation is the term for misalignment of the spine. That's where things get off position, puts pressure on our nervous system, damages it, and affects our body's function and health. And you also know that the only way to effectively diagnose the structure of the spine and diagnose subluxation is through x-rays. Everything else is educated guessing. So for anyone you know who is going to a chiropractor who doesn't take x-rays or is looking for a chiropractor, please make sure they at least take pre-x-rays to at least diagnose you properly. Hopefully they're taking post-x-rays to chart your progress and make sure you're actually improving. But at the very least, they have to know what they're working with, because everything else is just guessing, and your health and your spine, your nervous system is too important to be doing any kind of guessing. So to kind of summarize it all up, the chiropractic approach to a healthy heart starts with our 6 essentials. It starts with praying, meditating daily to take care of the mind-body connection to help enhance your innate intelligence and keep your stress levels low. We need to correct the structure of the spine and nervous system. We do that with our adjustments, with our home care, with our wobble, with our vibration, with people who can do it. Maximize your structure so your body's function can be at its best as well. We then support that with eating well, with moving regularly, with detoxing the things that we couldn't avoid. We recommend doing a detox once, twice a year. On average, there's various forms of that as well, but sometimes we can't avoid everything, and we need to clear the crud out. And then finally, making sure we're sleeping in alignment with a cervical contour pillow or a roll behind our neck, and trying our best to stay on a rhythm. So we're not waking up with an alarm clock we have to use that to get up. We want that rhythm. The deeper your sleep, the better your rhythm, the better you heal, the better you recover. We never want to judge your health solely by how you feel. If you feel good, that is awesome. We want you to feel good. That's why we ask you how you're doing every day. But we know that using the nervous system, for example, it can take up to 90% of a nerve to be compressed before you feel a symptom. All the while, your body's function is decreasing, your health is decreasing, and you have no idea. Going back to blood pressure, another example. You can have high blood pressure and have no idea. You think you're healthy and you're not. You're just waiting for that heart attack. So we have to, rather than judge our health solely by how we feel, do the things we know that keep us healthy, that promote health and well-being, and stick to them. We do that by living those 6 essentials, again, like I said, and minimizing the toxicities and stresses that lead to dysfunction. That's mental and emotional stress. That's physical stress, whether it be to traumas, poor postures, ergonomics, repetitive movements and not balancing ourselves. And then chemical stresses from the stuff we put into our bodies, from food to medications to chemicals in our cleaning supplies or whatever it may be. We want to minimize those so that our balance can be at its best and we can function at our best. Lastly, I want to remind you we do have a new patient special every month. $47 coupon for a new patient exam, adjustments, x-rays, and doctor's report. However, if you have someone you are thinking of bringing in and you get them to watch any of our workshops, this one included, and they bring that workshop paperwork in with them, that is a complimentary examination. So it's a no-brainer.